Hey everyone, this is Rick Morgan. I wanted to talk a little bit about even more work with these CGC cases that I did. Was not ready for all the attention, and I got a tremendous number of questions and comments about the work I did opening a case and resealing, and some of them made me laugh. It was really funny because reminds me of this Woody Allen movie I saw when I was a kid, in which he's behind two old ladies that are waiting to get into a restaurant, and they're complaining about the restaurant, but they're still going, right? One of them says, "The food here is so terrible, and it's such small portions too." And I laugh because some of the comments I got were, they say, "Well, you shouldn't be showing this, and you didn't show enough stuff anyway." So I'm like, okay, well, if I shouldn't be showing it, how can I not show enough? So it's just I find it humorous. It was just a small number of the comments, but it busted me up. I love it. So it's great. But I did have some legitimate concerns about things like, okay, they said, look, this is obviously tampered with. Can you show it's not tampered with? Can you do a job where it's not shown at all? And people said, "Are you sure you can't get that top label out? And you took the whole book out, so you have to split it a lot more. It's just easier to get the top out, just the label." And what are the questions that I have? I had questions about, okay, what temperature exactly is needed? Like, is there a danger of hurting the comic book with the heat gun if you use a heat gun? At what temperature is that the different? Like, what temperature do you need? So I decided to put it in an oven. It's not something I would normally do. I think I would stick to the heat gun method because I don't want to bake the whole book. But because I have really tight, plus or minus 1 degree Fahrenheit control on a calibrated oven with 16 thermocouples inside, I wanted to see what the actual temperatures are. Like, what temperature does the inner wrapping melt to the book or deform? What temperature does the plastic actually deform? Well, it's PETG, the polyethylene terephthalate glycol. It's just same as PET, but it has glycol in it, so it's more formable. So it's easier to form, or to maybe injection mold or to press or vacuum form is the material. It has a melting point of 500 degrees Fahrenheit but the glass transition temperature, the temperature where it softens, is only like 190 degrees or so Fahrenheit. But that's probably that's not enough to really separate the edges where it's sealed or the ball. So I went just a little higher. I sort of explored these temperatures. The questions I have are, at what point does the case start to buckle, and what temperature does it's pretty obviously too hot for it? At what temperature does it begin to soften so you can separate the corners? And at what temperature does the inner case stick to the comic book and ruin it? Like, what are the hazards? What are the parameter spaces we're looking at? That's just all scientific knowledge stuff. And then and the other question is, for the people who really want to know, what do I look for in a case that's been tampered with? Is it possible to actually get that top part out? Because that's less danger of splitting the sides, if you just get those pins out of the top corners. And can that be done? And I think it can. So I'm getting better. I only have very few cases that don't have very expensive books in them, so I don't have a lot to play with. So I'm using the other end of the same CGC case I used previously, and you can take a look and see for yourself. See what you decide. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the video. Here it goes. Take care. Bye-bye. So here we are at the glass transition temperature of the PETG. I'm going to put a case in here and just see if it deforms. Just see if the stuff is easy to move or if it's still brittle at this temperature, and see if the label takes any damage. So I'm going to just pop this in here and we'll see how it goes. So this is checking the glass transition temperature, the lowest temperature, to see if the plastic is actually ductile. And I squeeze it with a pair of channel locks, pliers, and it does not leave a dent. So it's not very ductile. This is not quite hot enough. So I did that 10 degrees at a time until I got up to about 240 degrees. And you can see that this is the temperature at which it's just failing under its own weight. This is too high, right? So we need to back off from 240 is clearly too much temperature, because you leave it, the book will just deform with no pressure for me at all. It's well beyond the flexible temperature. To save you watching all my experiments, I settled on about 225 degrees is the temperature that I ended up using. And I'll show you here, I'll do 2 corners. One is I'll try to open up just the pin, and then one I'll try to open up the pin and the side. This first one's going to be the pin and the side, and then I'll just do just the pin. And I'll try to get the label out. That's my goal today. I put some masking tape on here to see if I can protect it from scratch marks. And here I am pushing just the side. There's the masking tape, and it comes right open. There's very little effort. In fact, there's no effort at all at 225 degrees by baking the entire book. And so I want to open that up, and there it is. It didn't take anything. It was literally no effort. It popped open on its own. And I'm walking up the side a little bit here. I'm going to see how much of this side I can split without cracking or making it evident that I'm opening up the side of the book. And then my next feat will be to try to get the label out the side with as little open as possible. You can see it's not very damaged at all. I'm going to see how far I can go up here. And if you can get that one corner open, doesn't have to be much, you can actually get in there and get the label out pretty easily. So it's not too much of an effort. So I'll reseal this and then see if I can get the other corner open just a little bit. This is noticeable. You can see for yourself that you can see a space there, that it's kind of been separated, but I can do the other side. I did both corners, and like that. That's me pushing the other corner open. It's just warm. I didn't even use a tool. I just used my fingernail and it came right open. So take a look at that, and that is enough space. I tried it to take the label out and put a new one back in, and that's where the sonic weld is. And then look at the side of this book, and you can tell me if you think that it's how detectable it is. I scratched it with my tools initially. And the book, by the way, it's 235 is how much the interior thing sticks to the book, the interior sleeve, so that book is ruined. But look at this corner here, and you can tell me, I'll do a still frame in a second because a lot of people ask for it. Sort of ignore the scratch marks of me prying around it earlier from a previous experiment, and then there you go. Tell me if you look at that, and that looks like it has been opened and resealed to you, because one drop of welding material, which I'll show you here in a picture of what it looks like on the side, and a clamp, and that is sealed back up, and you can swap that label out of that corner. And that should answer the question. Hopefully people will now understand what it looks like when you take the label out and put it back in. So you can look at it, you can tell. I mean, there's a little bit of a line, there's a little different, but it's subtle. I would say it's subtle. Naturally, there are going to be experts who look at this and freeze frame and blow it up and tell me, you could tell the whole time, I'm so smart. Look how smart I am. I could see this. Yeah, I know, pal. You're great. Super smart. Yeah, it's not unnoticeable, but you have to look a little bit closer. Will CGC solve this? Probably. But for right now, that's the state of my experiments. My questions, and here are the answers to my questions. The first question was, can you just remove the label and not the whole book? Which I originally thought was too difficult, with minimal evidence, minimal witness pattern on the case. Yeah, and the answer is yeah, I think you can. It's minimal. I think that can be done. Another question I had was, can you do just one corner and get label out instead of two? I guess it's kind of the same question. And the answer is yeah, you can get just one corner. You can just lift that out of there. I thought it would be difficult because it goes around the corner, ends up if you just pull down, it flattens out and comes out pretty easily. Getting it back in, I tried, and it just, because it was the same label in the same book, maybe because you just put it in and it naturally tries to fold over, and it just fits in that spot. And I didn't show in the video, I should have, but I needed 2 hands to do that, and I also had to be my own cameraman, so it did. You just fold it in, and it just flips over, and you just kind of nestle it in there. The other question was, how detectable is it? I showed a photo. You can see that it's separated. I think a nice clamp, a little bit of heat. I think just the heat, honestly, you could just clamp it and it would just seal back. I didn't even really need to use a solvent. So you can see for yourself how detectable it is. Question I also had was, will the heat damage the label or the book? The label didn't take any damage at all, but it ends up that about 235 F, that inner sleeve will start sticking to the book and will warp. So that's the temperature. That's the danger zone temp. And it was about 220 to 225 that I needed. What temperature do you split it at? You can separate it. Probably even lower. I didn't push very hard at 215, but I now know that just it was very little effort at 225 to just pull. So somewhere between 215 and 225, you can just use your fingers. I don't think you'll even need a tool, and you could get one corner open. Those are the questions I had. Like, what temperature do you need to get the case to separate it without causing damage? Can you just get one corner open? And then the question is, can you tell? Well, you have to start looking a lot closer, but you can tell it's not quite perfect in that corner. It's pretty damn subtle, but you can see it's a little teensy bit wider from the photos. I'll bring that photo back up here now, and you can see how it's just a little bit wider. And in that case that I did it, so it is noticeable. But the reason I did this video is to ask the question people ask me: are there more books than just the reholdered ones? Meaning, the people have to break this in and they get reholdered because it's so evident from us reslabbing this book that the reholdering is the only way to really get these fake books out in the market. And I don't think so. I think that you can swap the labels, and the average person wouldn't stop and detect that label was detected. I originally thought it was restricted to the books, and I think with the new experiments, I think we've expanded that to be relatively certain that it's not just the reholder books. At least it's possible that it isn't just the reholder. I don't know, of course, but anyway, that's my update. I hope you enjoyed the video. Take care. Bye-bye.